Hello and welcome back to my channel.
You showed me how to live love, so tell me what you're thinking of.
This whole video, like the tripod that you're on and everything, is very makeshift because this looks organized, but the rest of my room is covered in stuff because I'm in the process of moving out at the moment and it is just utter chaos. But I thought that I would mark the end of my study abroad year with a little sit down video because even though I have obviously vlogged most of this year, I feel like I don't really get to talk in depth in those vlogs about how I'm feeling and the things that I've learned on this year, and I also thought that this would be a nice way to round my study abroad year off because I really feel like you guys have been on this journey with me and I want to share the kind of lessons, I guess, that I've learned and just have a little reflective time together. I was actually journaling last night and this is what kind of made me feel inspired to do this video. So if I keep looking down, I'm looking down at my journal because I'm essentially just gonna read you my journal entry and what I wrote in there. If you've never seen my face before, if you've never watched any of my videos, then just to give you a little bit of context, my name's Lydia. I'm technically in my third year of studying at the University of Leeds. I study business management, but this year I have been at Copenhagen Business School in Copenhagen in Denmark, and I've been doing what we call in the UK a study abroad year, but it doesn't count towards my degree, so it is essentially a bit of a gap year in the middle of my degree. Also, this is probably going to be quite a rambly video, so grab yourself a cup of tea and yeah, let's have a chat. One of the biggest things that this study abroad year has taught me is independence. And I've always kind of seen myself as an independent person in the sense that I'd say I'm quite proactive, I'm quite good at just getting things done on my own. But this year has really taught me independence in the sense of just being on my own and fully on my own. So not doing things in a certain way because someone else has done it, or not doing things just because someone else has been doing it, even if I don't realize that that is impacting me. But for the first time, just actually solely existing on my own. And not to sound dramatic, but I feel like in that sense I just did not know myself before I moved to Denmark, because I've always lived with family and I've always lived with friends, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I had never lived on my own. And moving here and living on my own for the first time made me realize that personally I didn't really know myself that well. I didn't really know when I was on my own what I liked to do and what made me happy when I was just on my own. I wasn't with other people. So I feel like spending a lot of time on my own this year has actually made me get to know myself a lot and made me actually realize what makes me happy. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with living with other people. Obviously lots of people on study abroad move into flat shares or house shares, and I am also in a dorm building here, but I do essentially live in kind of a studio flat space, so naturally I spend a lot of time on my own. And I think one thing that I've had to learn this year that I never really understood before is time alone is not time wasted. I think when I initially moved abroad, I expected to constantly be surrounded by people and constantly have loads of friends, be doing things all the time with people, and that just hasn't been the case this year for me. Of course, I have been social and I have made friends and I've had a great time with them, but I have spent a lot more time on my own than I expected this year, and a lot more time on my own than I ever have before. And it's taken me a while to realize that that time on my own is not time wasted. I'm not wasting away my study abroad year just because I'm not spending it with other people. It's actually allowed me to, as I've said, get to know myself a lot and learn what makes me happiest and makes me most fulfilled. And it's so cliche to say that I found myself on my study abroad year or my gap year, but I do think sometimes it takes completely removing yourself from your comfort zone and disrupting all of your routine and all of your life to actually get to know yourself properly, because I didn't realize that a lot of what I was doing and what I thought I liked was just simply routine or what others around me were doing. And on the topic of comfort zones, I think a lot of your experience on a study abroad year will come from pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, because it is not easy. I feel like on social media it can be really easily glamorized, and obviously I contribute to this too, because I show you a lot of kind of the surface level of my life and not a lot about how I'm actually feeling behind it, which is what I'm trying to do in this video. I'm trying to show you the other side of it. But I feel like on social media it can be really easy to portray this image of just having constant fun, and whilst this has been one of the best years of my life, it has also been the hardest year of my life. I've had to deal with a lot of mental challenges that I've never had to deal with before, and it's been quite a turbulent year in that sense. It's really had its peaks and its, what's the opposite of peaks? Troughs. I found that I can have the absolute best time traveling around Europe, spending time with friends, meeting lots of new people, to actually feeling really lonely and really isolated in a matter of days, in a matter of weeks. And I just want to point out that anytime I'm saying anything slightly negative in this video, I am not trying to put anyone off a study abroad year. I would recommend it to absolutely everyone, and I genuinely mean that. I just kind of want to tell you like the other side of the story and how it has actually been for me. And anyone that is doing this kind of year is probably gonna feel loneliness, you're probably gonna feel homesick, you're probably gonna feel isolated at times. But what I've learned is that is all completely natural, and if you speak to anyone, they have probably felt the same at one point or another. It's not something to feel afraid of, it's not something to feel ashamed of. It's feelings that will eventually pass and feelings that are incredibly natural. I think for a long time I kind of thought that feeling homesick and wanting to go back home were kind of signs that I had failed my study abroad year, especially in the second semester where I'm now bordering on a year since I moved to Copenhagen. So it's a year that I've been away from my friends and my family and my boyfriend, and I think it was around March time and I was feeling really homesick, and my boyfriend was like, why don't you just come home for a couple of days? And I don't know why, but I just hadn't even allowed myself to think that that was an option, because I thought that that showed some sort of sign of failure. So I'm telling you, learn from my mistakes. It is absolutely natural to have those feelings, and you probably will encounter them at some point. In terms of how this year has compared to my expectations before I moved to Copenhagen, I'd say it really varies. I am so grateful that I have been able to travel around Europe, because that is one thing that I really wanted to do before I moved here. And I've been to Vienna, I've been to Budapest, I've been to Rome, Florence, the Amalfi Coast, Cologne, Dusseldorf, Lanzarote, Porto, Hamburg as well, which has all been so incredible, and I have the best memories from those trips, and I've absolutely loved having that little bit of freedom and time to do that traveling that I've really wanted to do. It has essentially felt like a year-long holiday in the middle of my degree. As I said at the start of the video, I'm very lucky in the sense I don't have a lot of responsibility this year. All I have to do in terms of academics and studying is pass the year. It doesn't actually count towards the degree classification that I graduate with, and I think that and other things have really helped alleviate stress, which is something that I didn't realize I needed help with, I guess, before I moved here. It was kind of like an accidental lesson that was learned, but I remember telling my friend Megan when she came to visit in November, I felt like without realizing I needed this year for my mental health, because I was so burnt out in my second year of university, because obviously it was quite an academically intense year. We had lockdowns, we had online university, I was involved in 2 other student organisations, and I had my YouTube channel and all my social media, and without realising I had got to a point where I was just in a constant state of stress and a constant state of overworking myself. So it's been incredibly nice to come on this study abroad year and actually just chill the fuck out for once, and having that little bit more time and that little bit more space this year has really helped me establish more of a work-life balance, which is something that I have always struggled with, and I'm very grateful that I've had this opportunity to kind of learn more about that balance, because I'm really hoping that it's something that I can take into my final year and also take beyond that, obviously. I think living in Denmark in particular has really helped with that too, because they really have their work-life balance down to a T here. I think I've learned and absorbed a lot from their culture in terms of how laid back they are, in terms of their happiness and how they really prioritize what makes them happy. There's not really as much pressure here, and there's not this really rushed culture as I'd say there is in the UK. For example, lots of the students at Copenhagen Business School are older, because you can take gap years while you're in high school. You can take as many gap years as you want before you go to university to actually work out what you want to study, and there's not this pressure to have your whole life worked out when you're like 18 and know exactly what you want to do. Sorry if I've shifted slightly, my battery ran out, so I had to reset everything. But carrying on from what I was saying, I think here the bigger priorities in the general culture are more just things like happiness and spending quality time with friends and family, and just doing the things that you genuinely enjoy. I feel like I've really learned from that, and I'm very, very grateful for that part of the culture. And I'd also say that this year has opened my eyes a lot in that sense as well, because I don't have everything planned out, I don't have everything figured out, and I feel like sometimes in the UK, and you know, especially in the business school, I think there's this real pressure to have everything figured out. But this year has kind of showed me that there's so much of the world that I haven't seen yet, and there's so many opportunities that I don't even know exist yet, and they would just be impossible to plan for. Like, I hadn't even been to Denmark on holiday or anything before I moved here, and I would not have known that I would have the absolute best year here and learn all these amazing lessons if I hadn't done that. But you know, that's not a very conventional thing to do, to just move to a country that you've never been before. And obviously it's organised within a study abroad year, so it's a little more planned, I guess, than just completely randomly moving somewhere. But still, I think it just shows that so much exists outside of convention or outside of the normal path of life. But going back to expectations that I was talking about a little bit before, I definitely came here, as I said, with the expectation that I would constantly travel and I would meet loads of new people and I would have hundreds of new friends from across the world. And whilst I have been able to do all that, as I said, I've been so lucky to go on so many trips. I've met lovely people here, I've made friends for life. One thing that I didn't really expect or realise is the day-to-day life of study abroad is kind of the same, still, you know, mundane. Not every day is a holiday and a party. Like, I am here to study and a lot of my routine kind of surrounds that. I still work when I'm here. However, there is something a little more exciting and a little more empowering about being able to create a routine and actually create a life for yourself in another country that has definitely given me confidence for the future. I would absolutely love to do this again, like move somewhere completely new and meet new people and experience a new culture. And yeah, that is kind of where my journal entry ends, because I think my hand really hurt and I kind of ran out of energy. So that's all I've got down, even though I'm sure there is so much more that I could have said. But I hope that you have gained something from this, especially if you're looking to do a study abroad, especially if it's something that you're considering. I'm in no way trying to put you off. As I mentioned before, I would absolutely recommend it to anyone. It has been the best year of my life, but I just wanted to kind of shed some light on topics that I don't think are as widely discussed on social media, and they're definitely not things that I knew before I moved on my study abroad year. Honestly, I think if you put a counter on this video for the number of times that I have said study abroad, it must be in the thousands by now. But also, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that has followed me on this journey. It has made it even more special to be able to share it with you and hear all of your lovely comments and feedback and DMs on a weekly basis. I really feel like I've been through it all with you guys, so thank you for following along. And if you haven't been following on, then feel free to rewatch my last year of videos and make sure to subscribe, because I've got such an exciting summer of traveling coming up and the content is going to be incredible, I hope. But for now, I will see you in my next vlog. Bye!